let's move on to Best Picture. We have a big category this year. We have a huge category, so big that I have to scroll up and scroll down. The nominees for Best Picture are All Quiet on the Western Front. I couldn't care less about naming producers. Avatar, The Way of Water, Avatar 2. The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. First thoughts on the Best Picture category.
There are some great films here. I'm sure you could guess. I would say half of them are outstanding films that'll be remembered long past the other junk that, oh my goodness, critics and audiences alike are raving. That said, there is a film on here I haven't seen. I have not seen Elvis. I don't see musician biopics. I think that's, if they are the Golden Globes of films, are musician biopics.
It's a good line.
All right. Thank you. Here, let me give myself some applause. Anyway, enough of that. Well, yeah, I don't think Tar's that good. I think it's pretty mediocre. Triangle of Sadness, I struggle with. How did you put it with Everything Everywhere All at Once when you first saw it?
Oh, it was either the greatest film of the year or
I'm not sure I quite think of it that way. Or would you say the weirdest? I don't think of it quite that way, but I am kind of torn. Maybe it is better than I'm giving it credit for. And maybe I need to rewatch it in a few months, but right now I'm like, Top Gun, you know what? They're Top Gun and Avatar both. Well, Avatar, there's a mediocre film. There's a mediocrity, although a mediocrity we'll just keep seeing more of. Top Gun, I am so glad it was good. I am so impressed that they were able to do a Star Wars reboot. This is what the third trilogy should have kicked off with or ended with. That they even did an homage to the trench run. It's like there's some great little moments in that film. That said, Best Picture, you know what? Like all sequels, you're going over old ground. Top Gun was so 80s. This is barely, it's almost like the 80s, that was a great time for men. I don't think though, is it a great film? No, it's a crowd pleaser. It's a super well-made crowd pleaser. But again, is it going to be one of those things talked about in 10 years? Maybe it will. Who knows? Here I am trying to predict the future. I just, you know what, it did end up though on my best 10 of the year. So of the movies Jim and I covered. So,
And you cover a lot of films.
We do. More than a couple. One a week. Although we've been a little slack in getting out product over the last week and a half, but that will be fixed later today.
So shall we look at the odds? So interestingly, in a 10 film field, we have an overwhelming favorite in Everything Everywhere All at Once at -700.
Still a little surprising, eh?
Yeah, I mean to have a negative, to have a favorite that's that big a number in a 10 film field is pretty amazing. the next biggest favorite is plus 1,100, the Banshees of Inisherin, then All Quiet on the Western Front, Top Gun Maverick, all the way down to plus 10,000 for Avatar 2, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking.
All these movies are, this isn't going to win.
Yeah, no.
No. We can't say they aren't, but.
Does any of this surprise you?
The Everything Everywhere All at Once surprises me again. I'm not disturbed by it. Like, if it wins, it'd be almost like the Academy voters are going, yes, we should look to the future, not to the past. Like, there's some good signs in that, interestingly enough. Yeah. So it surprises me, but pleasantly so, maybe.
And the only one I have not seen yet is All Quiet on the Western Front. I take it back. I watched 5 minutes of it on Netflix and I fell asleep.
Yeah, you were tired. That's
not saying it's bad. It was just late at night. So
No.
let's whittle it down to top five Best Picture candidates, and who do you think should win and who do you think will win?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. I think of the top five. Definitely Everything Everywhere All at Once. Definitely The Fabelmans. Definitely Women Talking. The next couple get a little tough, but on this list, interesting enough that Banshees of Inisherin, actually, it's not as difficult. It's that fifth slot. This is a little harder, but I would put, did I have Women Talking on that list already? I put Women Talking on that
yes.
list. Okay, so let me make sure I got this. Okay, Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Women Talking. Oh, I do need one more. Oh.
Well, I didn't put up. I didn't tell you ahead of time for top five. So
I'm kind of stuck here. You know what? I'm sort of it's a toss up between All Quiet in the Western Front and, based on this list, Top Gun Maverick. You know what? See, the lists don't survive these conversations. Right now, I would put it for myself. Oh shit! There's such different movies. I can't. It's a two-way tie for that fifth spot between Top Gun Maverick and All Quiet in the Western Front.
Okay.
The other four can kiss my ass.
Who do you think should win, and who do you think will win Best Picture?
Odds thing shocks me, but it also excites me that if Everything Everywhere All at Once wins, that does mean those, because the Academy, to become an Academy member, a voting member, and everyone gets to vote for the Best Picture. And if they vote for Everything Everywhere at Once, if that's the one that wins, it's like, wow, they really are willing to get outside of the box, try some different things. That's kind of exciting. My soft spot, notwithstanding how All Quiet in the Western Front moved me, Banshees of Inisherin, they all moved me, like, emotionally, right? Women Talking is, moved me. But I've got a soft spot for The Fabelmans. So yeah, I'll go along with the bookies. That's exciting. I got to admit, I have such a soft spot for The Fabelmans. I think it's also, there's some films that are also, they're love letters to film, and they're a study of film and a celebration of film history, and you see all of that in the Fabelmans, and a celebration of storytelling, of story, which is another thing I'm really, that was kind of my gateway into films. So yeah, the Fabelmans probably, but I mean, I'd probably get a little misty if Women Talking won. I know it won't, but I'd probably choke up a little actually.
So,
It's a
so you
tough.
think
There's half these films are like moving films, like emotionally, get a hook in you.
and ones that will stick with us.
Yeah, that I think will, or at least for me, you know. Whereas, yeah, Top Gun Maverick, that'll be a nice, easy Sunday afternoon watch, you know.
So you
Better
think that
than Free Guy, but in the same class of film. It's like, yeah, sure. What the hell? I don't want to be moved. I want to have fun.
so not the old guard.
No, God, no. None of these are the old guard. That's great. Not one. Even Tar is better than the old guard. But then no one was ever going, wow, this is an award-worthy film with award-worthy performances.
So you think Everything Everywhere All at Once will win, and your choice for should win is The Fabelmans.
Well, maybe not
Right?
should, because I got a soft spot for it.
Okay.
I got a soft spot for it because it just mashes all my buttons.
Yeah.
But like I said, the Women Talking one, I'd also be like, wow, I would choke up, I think. Yeah, there's these, it's a tough one because half these films are like, or 4 of the 10 films are great films with capital G, I think. Oh, and I do want to walk back something I said earlier when I was talking about Spielberg winning Best Director. They don't get to do that. It's only in Best Picture that they get to do that. What's my second best?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, they don't do that ranked voting for Best Picture, for Best Director. I think it's just, hey, who got the most?
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. My top 5 Best Pictures of this year, I would definitely have Women Talking in there, and yeah, it's definitely a recency bias, but Women Talking is just such a fine piece of filmmaking. It's so finely crafted. All of the characters have such unique voices from different points of view. You never forget which character is talking at any one time. The Fabelmans is such a brilliant film, and you're not supposed to compare it to other films, but considering that E.T. I saw in theaters when I was 6, and E.T. is all about Steven Spielberg in his 30s dealing with his parents' divorce emotionally. Fast forward 40 years, Steven Spielberg's real-life parents actually did have a major reconciliation. There's shots of his parents in side-by-side wheelchairs in real life. They both lived into their 90s. And so The Fabelmans is such a love letter to his parents, whereas E.T. was critical of his dad especially, and somewhat critical of his mom for being emotionally immature during a divorce. If you look at the point of view of E.T., if you look at the point of view of The Fabelmans, it's Steven Spielberg now 4 decades later, kind of revisiting similar material that's very personal to him, and you really see the "I love you, mom and dad," the forgiveness of the anger of youth having been washed away, and just a love letter to his parents. And
well, also just a maturing, right? You get older and you kind of go, oh, maybe it wasn't quite like I saw it.
Yeah,
and you see that in that film. Yeah, it is genius. It's a genius film.
Yeah, and the fact that he's Steven Spielberg. Yeah, he's Steven Spielberg. But the fact that we're able to see an artist like Steven Spielberg revisit a similar topic 4 decades later and have a slightly different take on a very similar subject. It's fascinating to watch him as an artist grow and change over time there, too. Also, I loved Banshees of Inisherin. It's just so well done. Classic Hollywood filmmaking at its best. Stand-up performances. Barry Keoghan breaks your heart. And it is interesting to think, too, that the Banshees of Inisherin takes place in 1923 during the Irish Civil War, which I know nothing about historically, but as an American, I think of the potato famine in the 1860s, 70s, 80s that leads to a massive migration across the Atlantic to America, so you have all these Irish immigrants coming here, but you never really think of looking at Ireland and everyone having left. And when you look at the Banshees of Inisherin and this very tiny island that doesn't have electricity, and when they show these expansive wide shots and these homes made out of brick or stone, and there's only 1 out of 10-ish that even have a home still standing. So the people that are left on Inisherin are the people that were left behind after the potato famine. And the fact that you see this...
Like everyone else in Ireland.
Yeah, it's just fascinating because you don't really think of the potato famine and the massive migration of people out of Ireland. You don't think of it in terms of the people that were left behind. And you can kind of see in the broken hearts of every single character in that film that they were left behind for various reasons. Not that people were leaving them behind, but they were the ones that couldn't or didn't or shouldn't have left. And it just adds to the heartbreak that is the Banshees of Inisherin.
That's an interesting take, because that's like... Yeah, I would fundamentally disagree with you on that take. Like really? Like radically. Yeah, it's almost like interpreting someone else's history from your history, and we're experiencing that now. I know some like Ukrainians, they moved from Ukraine to Canada in the last 20 years, and how there's a couple of waves of Ukrainian migration into Manitoba, into my home province, and how they're like, yeah, these, let's say Ukrainian Canadians,
like Jim,
families have been, well, even Jim's a little fresher than most Ukrainian Canadians in Manitoba, but how these folks would say, oh, well, that's not how my baba makes it, or my baba says it. And the Ukrainians of now, like truly new Canadians, not even first generation, 0 generation Canadians, refugees are going, well, yeah, but the country, what? Yeah, that's how they said it in the 20s, the 1920s, if they even understand. Like, I think we're seeing to think about the potato famine. Did it have an impact on the Irish Revolution? Absolutely. And I think that is an interesting lens to look at the landscape and everything. But I think, for McDonough and you're just seeing Ireland of the 1920s and its reaction to the immediate things going on, not necessarily, you know what, this is the landscape that the potato famine left us. They're the ones who survived and got to keep all the stuff, I don't think they're sad about it at all. They're like, wow, we lived. We didn't starve to death or had to leave everything to survive, I think that narrative has in some ways way more impact in the United States and American history, and here in Canada, in Quebec history, because a lot of those folks came to Quebec. There's like a huge, like, kind of francophone community that all has O'Donnell, O'Reilly, which is, you have to be in Quebec to kind of, wait a second, wow, what do you mean you've been here 150 50 plus years.
That's interesting. French-speaking people of Irish descent.
Of potato famine descent. Or like if I went back to Iceland and go, oh, you know what, this really shows because that was another, Icelanders are in North America in large respect due to a large volcanic eruption that wiped out 80% of the arable land. In a place where there wasn't a lot of it already, it's like, oh, well, we can starve or we can off to North America. And they did. And although Icelanders will refer to this community outside of Iceland as Western Icelanders, they're not owned by that trauma. They've had volcanoes since. Iceland is like, how did a friend of mine put it? Oh, she says, I always thought I was Irish because she's Irish descent. Her last name is Doyle. She says, I always thought I was Irish until I met the Irish. And I think, so when you're observing this film, you got to take it at face value for what it is and look at the more, like before you jump back to the potato famine, you got to look at the Irish Civil War and how, although I disagree with the folks that are saying, oh, it's just a direct metaphor of it, it informs it, but it's not everything, Anyway, yeah, all I really want to say is, boy, I don't agree with that take at all. Not blah, blah, blah about fucking Irish descendants, potato famine descendants in Quebec.
And the,
Sorry.
And the Iceland immigration patterns.
I should have done that. I was a little late.
All that to say that Banshees of Inisherin in my top 5, along with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I do think that Everything Everywhere All at Once probably will win, and I am really torn because I, like you, I think that there are 4 or 5 movies that are on this list that are ones that will stay with you, and much like the best. Yeah, and you think back to
terrible problem to have.
Yes, and I think that if you think back to the 1995 Oscars for the 1994 films, there were 3 films in there that are all-time favorites in my book. And that was Pulp Fiction, Forrest Gump, and Shawshank Redemption. And those are still films that get talked about, written about, and are on constant rotation on cable somewhere. So I think that may be the case with this year's Best Picture nominee field. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once probably will win. As to the ones that I think should win, I can't go against Everything Everywhere All at Once. Mainly, though, just because it's a film that takes so many risks, and all of those risks pay off. In my mind, I like rewarding filmmakers that take risks that pay off, and pretty much everything about Everything Everywhere.
And they
all
don't need $250 million.
Yeah, and it's the fact that they introduced hot dog fingers. That should be enough for any one of those films. But and the fact that even, and it makes it in the trailers too. You can see it where they're doing where they're just pushing the characters around in office chairs. Very simple thing. There's no green screening there. There's no high budget techno cranes. That's just putting a camera in front of someone, an actor in an office chair, and dragging it around and speeding it up. And yet somehow all of that is very simple and complicated at the same time, and it works. And they smash it all together. They break a lot of eggs, and it's just such a very distinct, specific. Yes, a little bit artsy-fartsy, but every shot is there for a reason. Not a single shot in that film that has a ton of editing shots, a ton of different, a ton of shots back and forth. Everything about that film is so brilliantly done. They know exactly what they're doing. They have a very specific reason for doing everything that they're doing. They did it on a very small budget, and I guess my choice for Best Picture for me is Everything Everywhere.
I think I agree for slightly different reasons, but I do agree. There is something to be said about just, giving something that isn't necessarily a standard approach to heroism. And I think we also have to shout out one of the multiverse movies that really does kind of seem to want to kind of go, hey, what could we do with this? What kind of fun could we have with it? Versus, I'm thinking what Marvel is doing right now, other than in Loki. Because I think Loki is also, wow, big money made this, and this is kind of awesome.
And I've not
all
seen
the
Loki
other
yet, but I
ones
hear it's good.
are lazy. Like, that's pretty harsh, but yeah, Multiverse of Madness. That's like, really? Oh, this is what we're getting, I guess. I mean, not
Dr.
a
Strange
terrible
with a
movie,
ponytail.
but a solid mediocre, and without the joie de vivre that other films have, where you could say, I'll waste a couple of hours watching this. I don't want to think. I don't want to be challenged in any way, but I want to enjoy myself. And I don't even think Multiverse of Madness gives us that. I don't like it. Not that it's a cynical film, but it certainly isn't fun, and it isn't interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas Everything Everywhere at Once, fun, interesting, big swings, yeah.
And just talented filmmakers at their best, and Kiwi Kwan, Short Round. Who would have thought Short Round, retiring from acting basically 20 years ago, still working in the business behind the scenes, but who would have thought Short Round would have come off the bench and got an Oscar nomination?
Yeah, really. Yeah, no, it's got, and this is going back to earlier in our chat. You know what? The Oscars love a narrative, and, they love a story. They love a thing that they can package, that we say, look at this. It all makes sense. And Everything Everywhere Once, and they get to congratulate themselves for such a great forward thinkers they are, and how open they are to. Yeah, it presses a lot of buttons. James Cameron's probably going, wow, I got nominated.
I spent $2 billion and I got nominated, but I didn't win.
But yeah, he doesn't. He is the Ana de Armas of Best Picture nominees. Get to go, I'm gonna have fun. I ain't winning, but I will enjoy myself. The other chumps may actually, they might be fantasizing about upset. I know I'm not winning, so I'm just gonna go have fun.
By the way, interesting trivia side note, and I'll throw this trivia question to you. And there are two of there are two of this year's Oscar nominees who are overwhelming favorites. They starred in a low-budget comedy 30 years ago. And it's not like an all-time classic comedy either, but the fact that two Oscar nominees that are overwhelming favorites this year, the fact that they starred together in a film 30 years ago in a low-budget comedy, can you name that comedy?
Okay, so the performers, like actors, like
yes,
male or female, actors.
Two males.
Two males. Oh, overwhelming favorites in their categories. Starred in a low-budget comedy. Well,
relatively low budget.
Yeah, and inexpensive, value priced.
Can you name that comedy?
Produced. Okay. Can you give me a hint on one of the performers? Oh, well, I know he's got to be in it. Son of a. Was the male star? Okay. So it's Brendan Fraser, Ke Huy Quan. All right. Okay.
Can you name the
It
film that they
couldn't
starred
have
in
been
together?
George of the fucking Jungle, could it have been?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Think earlier.
Okay, earlier. He wasn't in Airheads, was he? No.
Brendan Fraser was. I don't believe Game of Thrones.
Okay.
That's not the one I was thinking about.
All right. I'm going to throw out guesses until you shut me up. But not Airheads.
You want a clue?
Wait. I want to. Oh, what the hell was that one where he comes out? It's with not Alicia Silverstone, but
no, that was Blast from the Past.
Blast from the Past. Yeah, give me a hint, please. I will take a hint.
Pauly Shore is involved.
Oh my God, Pauly Shore. Oh, that would have been low budget. I can almost see the poster. I give up. But I can see the poster. It's bugging me now.
Encino Man.
Thank you. There we go. Cavemen, not from the 50s Cold War era, but a caveman. Yeah.
Got a similar theme, though.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's
the things you find doing research for YouTube.
That's funny. That's a good one, man. That doesn't mean I'm going to go watch Encino Man.
No.
There's a couple others on that list. I think had
if you're flipping
had a bit of
channels
value
on a Sunday afternoon and it's on.
I think I'd keep flipping. Look, Free Guy.
Yeah, flip on Free Guy. Or,
perfectly fine film.
Or The Old Guard.
No. Another one.